Anatomy of the Soul, from the works of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov. Part 1. The Soul of the Anatomy. Chapter 1. In a Godly Image. Midrashic and Kabbalistic tradition state that when prophecy existed, God's existence was much more evident than it is nowadays. God spoke in man's heart, heaven was on earth, spirit permeated matter. The truth is that this is still true. Man is still connected to God, earth is still connected to heaven, and matter is still permeated by spirit or energy. Today it is even known that matter is undoubtedly just another form of energy. Still, this phenomenon is deeply hidden, and mankind is searching desperately for a way to reconnect to God. What connects God and man, heaven and earth, spirit and matter? Is there a bridge to God? Is there a ladder that we can climb to heaven and bring its light back down into our lives? There is a bridge and a ladder. It is called Torah. What is Torah? Torah is the written document received and transmitted by Moses at Sinai a little over 3,300 years ago. It is also the oral tradition that accompanied that document, including instructions on how to understand the basic meaning of Torah, for it is an extremely terse text that says much more than meets the eye, and to fulfill its commandments. The oral Torah dovetails with the written Torah in four primary ways encoded in the Hebrew word pardes. Pardes is the source for the English word paradise, which refers to the Garden of Eden. Pardes is also an acronym for four different levels of understanding the Torah: Peshat, simple meaning; Remez, allusion; Drush, homiletical meaning; and Sod, Kabbalah or secret meaning. Altogether, these four levels are the keys needed to enter the paradise of the Torah. With these four keys, the Torah opens up and reveals not only its own secrets, but the secrets of the universe, the secrets of matter, space, of history, time, of man, soul, and consciousness. If we wish to go behind the scenes and probe the mysteries of creation and human existence, the Torah is the address. The reason for this is that the Torah preceded creation. In truth, the Torah is nothing less than an illumination of what we call God's mind. It is the conceptual link between Him and His world, between Him and us. Torah and anatomy. This is the Torah, man. From Numbers 19, verse 14. It is well known that the Torah contains 613 mitzvot, commandments, plural of mitzvah, from Makot 23b. The root meaning of this verb, letzavot, to command, is to bind. When we perform a mitzvah, we bind ourselves and the world around us to God. The 613 mitzvot divide into 248 positive commandments and 365 prohibitions. These commandments encompass every aspect of our relationship with God, with our fellow human beings, and with all existence. Through these commandments, God provided every necessary tool with which man could connect to God and bring all of creation to its ultimate perfection. And the human form also has 248 limbs corresponding to the 248 positive commandments of the Torah, and 365 connecting tissues, veins, or sinews corresponding to the 365 prohibitions of the Torah, taken from Zohar 1, 170b. Thus, man was fashioned in the pattern of the Torah. Not only his soul, but the very body that seemingly prevents him from rising above the physical limitations of this world is itself a Torah. Through this connection, he can utilize all that is contained in the world to recognize and serve God with his body. With his soul, he can ascend beyond the material world and enter the realm of the spirit. With his body, he can channel the spiritual down into the material, creating the perfection that human life on earth was meant to be. The Torah is the link that allows man to do this. Reb Nosson writes about the link between the Torah and man's body In order to effect a remedy, a physician must have complete knowledge of the human anatomy. He must know all the parts of the body, the limbs, arteries, veins, etc. He must know how each and every organ is interconnected and interdependent with the others. He must be aware of how each organ can be affected by every other. Then and only then can a physician understand the nature of the illness he seeks to cure. In the same vein, the Torah is a body of law, with each individual mitzvah representing an organ of that body. To be able to fathom the true value of Torah, a person must know its anatomy, its laws and ideals, how each mitzvah is interconnected with the others as an individual, integral part of the entire Torah. From the Likutei Halakot, Rosh Chodesh 5:6. Reb Nosson continues his discourse explaining the parallels between the Torah's anatomy and the human anatomy. This is a major theme found in the Kabbalah, which describes the connection between certain parts of the body and certain mitzvot. Reb Nosson writes elsewhere that one who understands the writings of the Zohar and the Ari will realize that all the mysteries of the Kabbalah speak about this. From the Likutei Halakot, Mincha 7:22. Two works mentioned in this book, the Sha'arei Kedusha and the Sefer Charadim, have this idea as a major theme. Though corporeal, the human form corresponds to the Torah and reflects the highest levels of spirituality. Each part of the body corresponds to a different spiritual concept, a different mitzvah. Each organ and every vein contains its own spiritual power. When harnessed, these powers can elevate man above the material form that houses his soul. Moses is the paradigm for this elevation. He purified his physical body to such an extent that his corporeality was transformed into spirituality. The Torah bears witness to this when it relates that Moses ascended to heaven and remained there 40 days and 40 nights without eating or drinking. It's from Deuteronomy 9, verse 9. Another verse states that this is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the people of Israel. From Ibid 33, verse 1. Moses is called a man of God because he succeeded in transforming his physical body into a godly temple for his spirit. From the Devarim Rabbah 11, verse 4. It is thus written in Exodus 34, verse 30, "When Moses came down from Mount Sinai with 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand, he did not realize that the skin of his face had become luminous because of God's having spoken with him. When Aaron and all the children of Israel saw that the skin of Moses' face shone with a brilliant light, they were afraid to come near him."